Good evening, everyone. My name is Denis Torres. I'm a Brazilian software developer and database administrator living in Malta. And today I'll talk about self-CTL, the Power BI data flows. The data flows are a relatively recent new feature in Power BI. Let's see what we can do with them and why are they so important to us. A bit more about myself. I'm a data platform MVP with some Microsoft certification. I'm the leader of Malta Data Platform User Group. The site of the user group is full of technical content. And my website is also full of technical content, and you can see all my contacts on the right side. Feel free to get in touch, to ask questions, ask help, anything you would like. Let's start our agenda today. We'll talk about data flow, the first concept of data flow. We will make a review about the data warehouse ecosystem and see how the Power BI and the data flows fit on this ecosystem. We will talk about the Power BI ETL problem. Yes, because there is a problem. The data flows are coming to solve an existing problem. We'll talk about on-premise data gateway, used to get data from on-premise environment, and go in details of how that data flow works and see many demonstrations. So, first concept of the data flows is an additional Power BI ETL solution. You may already be used to Power Query, you may already be used to making ETL using Power Query and DM language inside Power BI desktop. The data flows are an additional ETL solution, but also using Power Query and DM language, but this time in the portal in some different ways that I will show to you. Only in the portal, not in the desktop. We can't create a data flow in Power BI desktop. In order to create a data flow, we need to go through the portal. We need to create it on the portal, not on the desktop. It solves some Power BI ETL problems. I will talk about what are these problems a bit further. Let's first review the data warehouse ecosystem. When I talk data warehouse ecosystem, many of you may be thinking, isn't this something from last century? Is data warehouse still important? Yes, data warehouse is still important. It's fundamental. The data warehouse is what ensures us that the information that we will get in Power BI will be trustworthy. It will be a correct information. If you get information in Power BI directly from production or other sources, we may be using sources that are not that trustworthy. Besides, we may affect production performance. The data warehouse is the solution for that. Power BI should get data from the data warehouse. Of course, the name may seem a bit from the last century because there are new technologies and new architectures nowadays, like big data, data lake house, and so on. But the data house is still alive. So, data warehouse solution architecture. The classic design of a data warehouse. We have many data sources. Let's imagine a big enterprise environment, a huge enterprise environment of a company with many different branches in many different countries, and each branch may be using a different data architecture, a different data source, and we need to capture the data from these many sources, pass this data by an ETL work, extract, transform, and load work, preparing this data and inserting this data into the data warehouse. The data warehouse is the historical data of the company, the trustworthy historical data of the company. Then, from the data warehouse, we build what is called semantic models, also known as cubes. In the past, we used SSAS, analysis services, to build these models. And these models were able to increase the performance of the access to the data and make the access to the data more familiar to business users. The business users were able to understand better the data model, the semantic model that we built in analysis services than the data warehouse itself. Another name for this would be a data mart, talking about old architectures. And from this, we go to reporting and analysis. So we start analyzing the data and creating reports over the data with many different tools. This is the traditional data warehouse architecture. And the question for us is, where Power BI fits on this architecture? How Power BI fits on this architecture? Well, it's easy. Power BI fits getting the tasks for reporting, analysis, and data models for itself. It means that Power BI is capable of replacing analysis services. We don't need analysis services to make the semantic model. We make the semantic model directly in Power BI because, in fact, Power BI has the tabular model of analysis services inside itself. The reporting, we are replacing the old report servers by Power BI, and in fact, we can publish the old reports built for report services to Power BI portal nowadays. So Power BI is replacing the reporting area. It will not work alone. From this point, we can use AI, Azure ML, and other tools as well. It will not work alone at this point, but it's getting out these tasks for semantic models and reporting and analysis for itself, for Power BI. That's where Power BI fits on the classical data warehouse architecture. So mind that Power BI should be reading the data from a data warehouse to ensure the data is trustworthy. If you are not reading from a data warehouse, if you are reading from a source that is not that much trustworthy, you are reading directly from production or other places, this has many consequences. For example, just to say one consequence on the development, the semantic models became harder to develop. You need to work harder, build index formulas, and so on to develop the semantic models because the data is not prepared for that. Okay, but there is something strange on this image. There is something strange because our session is about self-service ETL, the ETL that is provided by Power BI by using Power Query and data flows. Okay, but I still have the ETL process outside Power BI here in the data warehouse level. Yes, we have. Because on this classical scenario, when we feed Power BI on this scenario, we end up with two ETL processes. The enterprise ETL process, which is this one, perfectly visible on this image, is the ETL process intended to load data to the data warehouse. This ETL is intended to load data to the data warehouse. And in the past, this task was made by SSIS, Integration Services, SQL Server Integration Services. Nowadays, this task is made by Azure Data Factory. So we have an enterprise ETL, and we still have the need of this enterprise ETL. But why we need to? Why the second ETL? The second ETL makes the work of self-service ETL. Let's understand what is self-service ETL and why do we need a self-service ETL. Let's talk about enterprise data architecture in an enterprise environment. Let's imagine our company has a main office. And this main office has branches in many different places. For example, one for each continent, Europe, North America, and Asia. One branch for each continent. But that's not enough. Then the branches break themselves in many branches for each country. So we have branches for Malta, Sardinia, United States, Mexico, Russia, China, and so on. Branches for many different countries. So the branch for the continent manages the branch for each country in that continent, and so on. So how will the data architecture be built on this scenario? Well, we need information to be provided to the CEO of the company. We need a main source of truth of information. So we have an enterprise IT team that will work on an enterprise data warehouse. This team will work collecting the data from all the branches, and including this data in a central enterprise data warehouse. This team will be responsible for that. And the branches will be able to consume this data, to use this data to build reports, visuals, and so on. The problem is, it's very often that the departmental IT teams on each country will be dealing with different kinds of information, different kinds of technologies, and so on. It's usual that the companies give some freedom for the IT departments to deal with different technologies as long as they get the result done. That's it. So what happens? Maybe the enterprise data collected by the enterprise IT team is not enough for the departmental IT team. It may not be enough. And in this case, if it's not enough, how is it solved? In the past, the departmental ITs had to request changes to the enterprise IT, and the enterprise IT would need to include additional data in the data warehouse. This was the very old past, and it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. It's too much for the enterprise IT team. The enterprise IT team may take months to include one information that the departmental IT needs, and so on. It's too much. That's why we have a self-service ETL. This means that departmental IT doesn't need to be restricted to the corporate data warehouse. They can get the data from the corporate data warehouse, which is already one source of truth. But they can get additional data from their local environment, from external data. External data, for example, currency exchange data, weather data, and so on. So the departmental IT teams are able to use what we call self-service BI to get the data from the data warehouse, but expand this data with their own needs and achieve the result they need. That's the self-service ETL. And that's why we have two ETL systems. We have a corporate ETL system, an enterprise ETL system used by the enterprise IT team to build the data warehouse. And we have the self-service ETL system used by the departmental IT teams to collect information from the data warehouse and from other sources to reach their objectives. So we have two ETL solutions. So let's talk about the Power BI ETL problem. We are talking about an enterprise environment. We are talking about working on a big enterprise environment. But how do we work with Power BI Desktop? How is Power BI Desktop? Power BI Desktop creates a file, PBIX file. And this file, this PBIX file will contain the visualizations, the models, and the ETL. Everything in a single file. When we are working alone for a small business, maybe this is acceptable, even good, easy to deal with. But when we talk about an enterprise environment, this is unacceptable. Look to the problem that is already created on these two Power BI files. Both files need to use a data dimension. Data dimension is one very common dimension that every model may need to create a data dimension. So what happens if we are working file by file? We will duplicate this data dimension in every file. Duplicated work. Worse than that, we will make different data dimensions because each developer will make the data dimension in different ways, and this may lead to wrong information. This is absolutely terrible. Besides the fact that it's very difficult to really reach a teamwork using this. How a team can work together using this? There is no sharing of what was produced, what was developed. So things becomes very difficult in an enterprise environment, and that's how data flows solve the problem. The data flows are extracting from the PBIX the ETL process. Instead of building the ETL process inside the PBIX, we'll build the ETL process on the portal, on the Power BI portal. So by doing this, we'll be able to share the ETL process. So the example of the data dimension, we create the ETL to build the data dimension inside a Power BI data flow, as a Power BI data flow in the portal. So this data dimension, the data flow created in the portal can be shared by many PBIX files. What this means? This means that many different developers will be able to share the same work, the data flow built in the portal. So we can have different developers working together without duplicating their work. They can share their work, their ETL, for example, by creating data flows. That's the main subject of this session. Let's talk a bit about the on-premise data gateway before going to a demonstration. What's the on-premise data gateway? If Power BI in the portal needs to read some information from an on-premise environment, we need a gateway. We need a gateway installed in the on-premise environment to allow Power BI to read this information. So that's the idea of the gateway architecture, an on-premise data gateway. It will be installed in the on-premise environment and it will be communicating with Power BI to allow Power BI to access the information. I will not go so deep on details about the core architecture, but this image is giving us some details for you. It's saying that the internal architecture of the gateway is using Azure Service Bus. And I can say to you, the connection that Azure Service Bus allow between on-premise environment and cloud environment is very safe, very safe. You can dig deep on these details about Azure Service Bus, but it's not needed in order to use the gateway itself. It's just the core technology underneath the gateway work. The gateway is installed as a service. On the very beginning, there were many people that asked, oh, by installing a gateway, I need to keep this application running on my machine. I need to keep a user logged in on my machine. No way. The gateway is installed as a Windows service. So you install the gateway in a server as a Windows service. No problem with that. That's it, the on-premise data gateway service. But the management of the gateway is not done on-premise. We can't manage the gateway on-premise. The management of the gateway is made online. When we install the gateway in the on-premise environment, the gateway connects to the online environment, and then we can manage the gateway in the online environment. What is manage the gateway in this case? We can create many different connections, data source in the gateway. This data source we create in the gateway are defining what we will access inside our on-premise environment. Will we access a SQL Server? Then this will be a data source. Will we access an Oracle? Then this will be a data source, and so on. So we need to define data source on the gateway, defining what we will access inside the on-premise environment. When we define the data source, we define the authentication method. There are some very interesting details about the authentication method I will demonstrate in a while. And it's interesting that the user who is creating the data source, who is creating the connection in the gateway, he is able to define who will have permission to access this connection. Which developers will have permission to access this connection to build their reports and manipulate the data. How data flow works? Let's get into a bit more details. How the data flow works? It's only available in App Workspace. When we log in on the website, when we make the login on the portal, Power BI portal, we immediately see the My Workspace. We can't create data flows in My Workspace. That's it, we can't. We only can create data flows in App Workspace. Each data flow can have many entities. a single data flow can have multiple entities, many entities. So it's not one relation one-to-one. One data flow means one entity. No. One data flow can have many different entities. No problem with that. So how will we define which entities, what entities will go inside a single data flow and what entities will we include in different data flows? The data flow will control the refresh schedule. How often the ETL process will be executed? You build an schedule, an ETL schedule for the entire data flow. So if you have entities which have a similar need of refresh, these entities can go on the same data flow. But if you have entities with very different needs of refresh, for example, one entity that needs refresh every day and another entity that needs refresh once a week, then you have a problem. Because if you put both in the same data flow, you'll be losing performance, you'll be refreshing them too much. Refreshing one of the entities too much. That's not good. And that's how you define the breakdown of the entities and the data flows. Besides the reusability, how will you reuse the data flows? Each data flow can have many data sources. Yes, we can have many entities. We can also have many data sources. We can bring in data from many different data sources and make an ETL to work with this data source and generate entities, one or more entities, which can involve a merge of the data from different data sources. No problem about that. One data flow can use another data flow as a source. Yes. And this gives us a very powerful tool. We are talking about reusability and reusability in an enterprise scenario. So we create data flows. We expose data flows on our Power BI portal, and other developers from other teams, maybe from other branches of the company, can reuse these data flows, can get what we built on these data flows and build something further, build additional transformations, build something further with that information. So one data flow can use another data flow as a source. So this leads us to a scenario similar to this. We have reports on the workspace. These reports may be accessing datasets, shared datasets published on different workspace, and we can have access cross workspace. We can access data across different workspace. Why is this important? Why I'm highlighting so much this access across workspace? Imagine that each workspace can be a branch of your company. We are talking about sharing data across different branches, and you'll be able to get the data to make your work and make your data and analysis more rich. So we can access datasets across workspace, and the datasets can be generated from data flows, also across different workspace, many data flows on different workspace. No problem with that, and the data flows will be going to the data source. In this case, this data source should be the data warehouse, not the production. This Power BI architecture was built to read data from the data warehouse, but doesn't mean only the data warehouse. For example, if we need to get external data, we can. If we need to get data from the local branch instead of the corporate data warehouse, we can. So we can have many data sources, but focus on data warehouse which have the truth for the company, for the historical data of the company. So let's start a demonstration about all this that I just talked about. So here I already have the Power BI portal. The Power BI portal is already here. But before I start working with the portal, let's better understand my environment, how my environment is configured. I'm working on my local laptop. I have my local laptop, but inside of my local laptop, I have a virtual machine, which we call Work VM. And on this virtual machine, I have many databases, Adventure Works databases, using as simple data. So the Power BI will access the data from my virtual machine, which is inside my local laptop. On my local laptop, I have the gateway. I don't need to have the gateway open. I have the gateway open only to illustrate for you that the gateway is here. Here is the gateway. I already connected to the portal. This gateway is already connected to the portal. So the gateway is here. And the interesting part of this environment is that the gateway is on my local laptop. But what we will access is the database which is on a virtual machine. It's another machine. This means that when Power BI accesses the gateway will go to a different machine to get the data and deliver the data to Power BI. So the gateway is an entry point for our local network. We can access many different data sources in our local network using the Power BI gateway. Let's see how do we manage the gateway. We already saw that we need to manage the gateway from the portal here, manage gateway. So let's go there. The configuration is already done, but it's interesting for you to see how it's done. We have a gateway, SQLset gateway. The portal admin creates the gateway, and the portal admin can delegate the gateway configuration, can define who will manage this gateway. So it's very interesting that we have a hierarchy of management. So we have the portal administrator who delegates the management of the gateway to another user. This user, the gateway manager, will be responsible to create the connections inside the gateway. The connections inside the gateway contains information about authentication, how the gateway will authenticate to my on-premise data sources. This authentication information is here in the connection inside the gateway. And we will see something very interesting about this authentication information. And the gateway administrator can define who will have access to use these connections, which developers can use these connections and get data from this data source to build their reports. So we have a hierarchical management of the environment, and this is basic for an enterprise environment. So we have a portal administrator a gateway administrator, and this gateway administrator delegates access to the developers to access the connections in the gateway. Okay, let's go back to my workspace. In my workspace, I can see here data flows, but doesn't mean that I can create data flows. If I check the new button, there are no options here to create data flows. I can't create data flows in my workspace. I just can't. So, in order to create data flows, I need to have a workspace for that. So let's create a workspace. I hope I'm writing the name of your city correctly. Sometimes I get confused with some names in English. I'm sorry if I'm mistaken something. So I created the workspace, and now I'll start creating our first data flow. Data flow. Here we have four different options to create the data flow. Let's start with the first one. The first one is the most obvious one. Define new entities. In this case, I'm building an ETL and I want to generate a new entity using this ETL. That's it. No surprises. So add new entities. I need to identify what data source I use. I use SQL Server, a SQL Server database. Now, I'll type the server and the database. Mind what will happen while I'm typing the server and database here. I'll type work VM and eventually works DW 2016. What happened? According I was typing the server and the database, Power BI was checking on the gateway if I have access to a connection with this name, the server and the database name, and it found the connection. So it brought to me the authentication information for this connection. Mind that at this moment, at this point, I'm like a developer. I'm a report developer, a dashboard developer in Power BI. And what's interesting is that once the gateway administrator gave me permission to access a data source on the gateway, I don't need to know how the gateway connects to the on-premise. I don't need to know the authentication information the gateway will use to connect to the on-premise. I don't need this information. So I can use the information because the gateway administrator gave me permission to access the data source, but I don't know the authentication. I have no idea about the authentication, but I still will get the data from there. At this moment, it's already consulting my local SQL Server and bringing the tables from my on-premise SQL Server. Let's choose two tables to go ahead, the customer and the product. In this example, I'm already showing to you that one data flow doesn't mean exactly one table, one entity. One data flow doesn't mean one entity. One data flow can have many entities in the data flow. So, transform data And what we are seeing here? We are seeing the Power Query. We are seeing the Power Query environment. Just to note that I'm already seeing some questions. I will answer the questions a bit forward on the session. No problem. I will answer all of that. So we are seeing a Power Query environment. It's Power Query. So let's make some transformations here. I will exclude some customer columns. Let me select some columns. There are some columns here that are intended for translation, for Spanish translation and French translation. I will exclude them. I don't want these columns. It's just to illustrate that I can make transformations here exactly in the same way that we make transformations on Power Query. We make the transformations on Power Query. So having selected these columns, we choose remove columns. The user task on Power Query, and mind that it's really doing exactly what Power Query does. It's registering the steps I'm using for transformation. It's registering here and creating the M script for the transformation. That's it. Let's change the name of the entities. I will remove this DIN from the customer, so the entity will be customer, and the other will be product. So I remove the DIN from there and save and close. So now I'll give a name for the data flow. Let's call customer flow. Save. Mind that the customer flow is the name of the data flow. And inside this data flow, I have the entities customer and product inside this data flow. So I'll click save. And it offers to me to refresh the data flow. I will refresh the data flow. What this means? This means that it's bringing the data from my on-premise environment to here, to Power BI. Okay. So we just saw the use of Power Query on the web, inside the web to create data flows. But is this comfortable? We will adapt to use Power Query in the portal. Maybe it will take a while. Maybe it will not be so comfortable as on Power BI desktop. And besides all this, for sure you have a lot of PBIX files that already have the ETL, and you need to transfer this ETL to the data flows. How to do that? Let's get an example. I have a Power BI file here prepared for that. So I have this DIN geography. I'll click in Edit Query. I'll go in Advanced Editor and copy this M code. So now that I copy the M code, I'll return to the portal. I'll create a new data flow, and define new entity. This is the new entity. But this time I choose blank query. Then I can paste here the M code that I brought from my local Power BI file. I can choose the gateway, and I can fix the name of the server and the name of the database. The name of the server and the database are case sensitive, so I need to be sure about the case. So next, and it will start processing this query. And it will ask me to configure the connection. I need to configure the connection to the source. And when I click configure the connection, what happens? It already brings to me the authentication because it already found a match on the server and database name. So already brought to me the authentication. That's it. I, as a report developer, I don't need to know the authentication. So let's call this table geography. Save and close. And this is my second data flow. I have a data flow for customers and has products as well. And now I have a data flow for geography. I'll call geography flow. What's interesting, let me refresh the data flow. I'll refresh as well, bringing the data to here. What's interesting here is that the customers live somewhere. There is a key in the customer table that relates then to the geography table to tell us where the customer lives. So it's a natural consequence that I may need to merge the customer table with the geography table, and I just included them in different data flows. That's not a problem at all. Not a problem. Let's create a new data flow. One more data flow. But this time, the source of this data flow are two other data flows. This time, the source are two other data flows. So I will use add linked entities. I will link entities from other data flows. Add linked entities. I'm already signed in. I don't need gateway. Next. Mind the folders that appear on the left side of this screen. This is very interesting and very important because these folders are the workspace inside Power BI. This means that I can get data from different workspaces and merge them together to build my report. Yeah, but why is this important? Because the enterprise environment. Imagine how this workspace would be used in an enterprise environment. Each of these workspaces could be a branch in the company. Then we are talking about the ability to share data across branches, different development teams being able to expose sets of data on data flows or data sets, and you'll be able to get this data to build our own reports. In this case, I'm using a single workspace. Stockholm. I'll get the customer table and they'll get the geography table. That's it. And transform data. Customer table, geography table, and transform data. You can already notice the different symbol on the tables. This means these tables are linked tables. And I can't transform linked tables. I can't change the linked tables. If I need a transformation, I will need to create new tables from the linked tables. So in this case, that's what I will do. I will merge the customer table with the geography table. And I use the option to merge as a new query. Merge queries as new. So I'm merging customers with geography, and I choose the key, geography key on both sides to ensure the relationship, and that's the merge. Is bringing the merge to me. The last column on this merge has the geography table itself. So now, probably you already used to this in Power Query. I can expand the geography table and select the fields that I want to include on this new table. And I want to include the city, province name, country region name, and postal code. That's it. So I got fields from geography and included in a single table that has the fields from customers. Let's give a name for this new table, new entity, customer due, and save and close. Let's give a name for this data flow. Let's call this data flow customer due flow. Save. So I have a data flow making access to other data flows. It's offering me to make a refresh, but at the same time, it's giving me an advice. Linked entities are only supported on premium accounts. If you don't have a premium account, you can't refresh this data flow because you are using linked entities. This is disappointing, very disappointing, and they already put an alert here, but there is a solution for that. There is a solution for that. But before I tell you the solution for that, let's take a look on another feature called view lineage. View lineage. What this does? I can see exactly where my data is coming from. This is critical in a huge enterprise environment. I'm already talking about accessing data across different branches. So the ability to view the lineage, view where the data is coming from, is fundamental to know if that data is trustworthy or if that data is coming from an Excel spreadsheet that no one is updating correctly. So I can know where the data is coming from using the lineage feature, and that's very good. Now, let's solve your problem. Our data flow is not able to refresh, so I will edit our data flow. I will go back to the queries, and here comes the secret. The secret to make this work. The secret is that, yes, linked entities are a premium feature. That's it. It's a premium feature. But only if I'm loading them in the data flow. There is an option here, enable load. If I disable this option, I'm still able to make transformations with the data, creating new entities, and this is not a premium feature because I'm not loading the linked entities. So by disabling the load of the linked entities. I can save and close. And now I'm able to refresh this data flow. Probably I'm delayed about 1 minute or 2. So it's refreshing the data, it's refreshing the data flow. The only bad news about this is that if I get back to view lineage, now I can see lineage. The lineage feature is not capable to show the lineage if the entities are not loaded. It can't identify the lineage if the entities are not loaded. That's it. It can't. It just can't. There is a feature request on the Power BI website, on the ideas website. You can ask me later, or I can put on the chat later. I can try to find and put in the chat later. And it's very important that you vote for that feature, so the Power BI team will know that this feature is important for us. This feature is critical for us. And to complete these demonstrations, I'll get Power BI Desktop, and I can get information from the data flow. So on Power BI Desktop, I can get information from the data flow. This means that I'm reusing the work done by another developer. Another developer created the data flow, and I reuse the work of that developer to build my report, and they'll get the customer gel entity and ask to load. It's just customer gel. I'm not able to build any visual with only customer gel entities. Difficult. It would be only very simple visuals. But the point is, it's a self-service. I got this data flow. I can got other different data flows from different places. I can got other data from different sources. I can join everything together in a self-service environment in order to build my report. And the important point is that we have a powerful structure to ensure that we have reusability of each piece that we built inside Power BI. In this case, the focus of this session, the data flows. We have a powerful feature to ensure the reusability of the data flows. So I'm already delayed on the session timing. Let's check the questions. Jerry is asking if is there a subscription course for the Power BI workspace, or is an Azure subscription adequate? Azure subscription, Power BI subscription are different. Power BI subscription are made per user, and usually you start with a Pro subscription, and this has no relation to Azure subscription. It's a different subscription, but it's very cheap. It's something like 10 euros per user. I don't know the price. I'm guessing it's something like 10 euros per user or something like that. You can add RLS to this, Rose. I can ensure you can access RLS to this. This could be even another session. So if you send me an email, I can give you some links of reference about RLS, because you can define what information each business user can access and what information each business user can access. More than that, you can define if the user will be able to pass away the access permission or give to other people the access permission or not, if that permission is only for the user. So you have control of permissions, but this would be a different session to talk only about this. This is a very broad subject. Send me an email, drop me an email, and I'll give you some reference about this subject, about whole level security and so on. Users with free license. The free license only lasts for 30 days. But answering in detail the question, yes, yes. The users with free license can build reports using data flows created by a pro user. No problem with that. But the free license will be terminated in 30 days. So how do you move the mQuery across dev, test, production environment? There is one item that I have not detailed. Here you are still seeing my screen. On the data flows, there is this option, import model. And on the data flows, you will also see an option to export a data flow. Export the data flow to a JSON file and import the data flow from the JSON file. The first thing that this allows you is to move data flows across workspace. So you can have a development workspace, then you can move your data flows to production workspace across environments. And this is, let's say, a first step for a more complete DevOps scenario. Power BI has a management API capable to automate these tasks, but this is quite recent. I'm not sure how is the progress of this to automate this process, but what you are asking is linked to this point. From this point, you can manage this manually, then you can think about automating this process. Can you store the mQuery in Git? That's the same answer, because once you export the data flows as JSON files, you can store these JSON files in a Git repo, but you need to build an automation way to automatically deploy these data flows through the development workspace and automatically update the the Git environment with the updated data flows as well. So it still needs some automation. It would be very manual just using this option. But the first steps are present, and the APIs to automation are present. So we can go to this direction in relation to manage a development environment. Rose, thank you. Good that you like the disable loading option. Thank you very much. So let me get back to my PowerPoint. Here. Here you have again my contacts, and you have here a link of a survey about this session. Please fill the survey. It's very important for us to know if you like it, if you think we can improve something, what you think about the session, and so on. And Rose, you made the question about RLS. I couldn't give you many details, but drop me an email or connect to me on my connections, and I'll be able to give you some reference about this. So thank you very much for attending this session. I hope you all have enjoyed this session. Thank you very much.